Okay, this is time number 4 we're doing this. How you doing? It's Mr. H. I'm here to give you a quick Gnomes Team Social Studies update. I've been interrupted twice. The internet has crashed out once. Hopefully I can get through this one before the end of the day. So, a little bit about what's been happening this last week and what's going to happen next week. First of all, we start with grades. Grades at this point are pretty much locked down. They're due early Monday morning, so they've been at this point Friday afternoon finished. If you have any questions, you let me know on grades. I did have a lot of questions about extra credit, which I offered to students this time, dealing with the Mayans, excuse me. So what I did for extra credit, if people turned extra credit into me, I went through and I went in my grade book and I found low scores, or their lowest score that was an assignment that counted towards their overall average, and I bumped that up accordingly. If someone did some phenomenal work with Mayan base 20 math, which blows my brain, then they might have gotten more points. If they did and missed a few, I might have given them a little less. But everybody should have their extra credit now included into their grades, and it did make some people bump a letter grade. Some people, it just made their B or their A stronger Bs or As. So I appreciate everyone who did some extra work with that this quarter. So we've been talking about Mesopotamia, or the land between the rivers. We started at the beginning of the week talking about where that was, what that looks like if you were there, why people would want to live between the Tigris and the Euphrates River or the Nile River Valley, which is where we're going next week, Nile and the Egyptians, and what that kind of world was. And we started talking a little bit about the idea of beginnings of civilizations. So we talked about how agriculture allowed people to start to make food easier. Once you have a surplus of food, then you can start to divide the labor or have division of labor, which means not everyone's working to feed themselves, and they can start to work on other jobs and start to innovate, and those types of things are where we went. We also started to talk a little bit today about the development of writing, and so we started talking about cuneiform and doing some things like that. I actually gave the students this sheet right here at the end of class today, where they were actually trying to decipher cuneiform and write their names, which was actually quite a lot of fun, and a lot of them had some real trouble, especially the students who have X's in their name, because that's a really tricky letter. We did a couple of review games yesterday and today with a web tool called Kahoot. You should probably talk to your kids about Kahoot. We had a lot of fun with that. It's a review game where kids sign in with their devices, and then there's up on the screen there's questions about what we were talking about, and they all answer really fast, as quick as they can, and get answers right. And it becomes a fun kind of almost Jeopardy-style game. Now, to the one thing we have not talked about with the Mesopotamians or the Sumerians is the Code of Hammurabi. And so the thing we'll do on Monday is we'll talk about the Code of Hammurabi and talk about who Hammurabi was. We'll talk about how his law code was kind of developed and some of the interesting points about his law code that we need to know. We'll also compare it a little bit to our law code, or a little bit of our Bill of Rights, sort of, together, just to give it some content text in the United States. And then we'll continue on into the Egyptians for the rest of the quarter. Then when we get back from our track out, we'll probably have to talk just a little bit about the Egyptians, because there's a few things that becomes important about the Egyptians that students need to know for that end of the year kind of benchmark that the students will have to do in 6th grade social studies. So there's a few things we might have to catch up right when we track back in, and then we will carry on into the next unit, which has to do with the Greeks and the Romans and some of those types of things. So that's where we're going in the next little while. We are going to have an honor celebration on Friday, and a couple of interesting things right at the end of the quarter that will be hopefully entertaining and rewarding for students. So if you have any questions, you let us know, and if not, we'll have a good weekend. Looks like the weather's going to be nice.